Good evening, everyone. I'm President Chris Gibbs for the Shire of York, and I'm declaring this ordinary council meeting open at 5 p.m. on the 28th of April 2026. I'd like to advise that the York Shire Council acknowledges the Balladong people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional owners of the country where this meeting is being held, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water, sky and culture. We pay our respects to all these people and their elders, past, present and emerging. In accordance with Regulations 14I and 14J of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, notice is given that this meeting is being video and audio recorded to facilitate community participation and for minute-taking purposes. By being present at a meeting, members of the public consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be recorded. Audio recordings are published on the Shire's website following the meeting and may be released upon request to third parties. Now, members of the public are reminded that in accordance with Section 6.16 of the Shire of York Local Government Council Meetings Local Law 2016, nobody shall use any visual or vocal recording device or instrument to record the proceedings of council without the written permission of the presiding member. I wish to draw attention to the disclaimer notice contained within the agenda document and advise members of the public that any decisions made at the meeting today can be revoked in accordance with Regulation 10 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decisions until formal notification in writing from the Shire has been received. Any plans or documents in agendas and minutes may be subject to copyright, and the express permission of the copyright owner must be obtained before copying any copyright material. There is no change to standing orders. We have no announcement of visitors. Do we have, councillors, are there any declarations this evening of proximity interest? There are none. Are there any declarations of financial interest? You can see on your screen there, everyone, that there are two. They will be brought up at that item. There is one from myself and one from the temporary CEO. Councillors, are there any disclosures of impartiality this evening? We have one from Councillor Trent.
Yes, Mr. President. This regards the tourism funding acquittal, York motoring events.
Thanks. I'll get you to bring that up at the item. And Councillor Hutchinson, you had your hand up. You'll bring it up at the appropriate item. Just put your hand up when we get to it, please, so I make sure I catch it. Attendance. There's Councillor Chris Gibbs, the Shire President. Councillor Denise Smythe is the Deputy Shire President. Councillor Monique Hutchinson is here. Councillor Kevin Pike is here via electronic method. Councillor Kevin Trent is here, and Councillor Melissa Welsh is here. For staff, Alina Behan, the Temporary Chief Executive Officer, is here. Annika Burleson, Acting Executive Manager Corporate and Community Services, here. Thomas Bruins is here for his first OCM. He's the Executive Manager, Infrastructure and Development Services. Welcome, Thomas. And we have Emma Hannington, the Council Support Officer. We have apologies tonight from Councillor Elaine Ashford. We have no leaves of absence previously approved, and the number of people in the gallery at the commencement of the meeting is 13. Thank you very much for attending. So, we have some questions from previous meetings to do. This is a response to a previous public question that was taken on notice from Darlene Barrett. The question was, does the Shire of York have a Governance and Compliance Officer? And the response is, governance and compliance are the responsibility of everyone in the organisation and duties are split accordingly. However, much of the responsibility sits within the office of the CEO. The Shire has a Governance and People Business Unit, which is currently led by the Temporary Manager of Governance, and there is a Governance Officer that sits within that team. Question 2 was, who is or what is the name of the Governance and Compliance Officer? And the name and contact details of the Temporary Manager Governance will be provided to you via email. They will be able to redirect you to the appropriate officer depending upon the nature of your compliance or governance concerns. Thank you for your questions. There are no response to unasked questions from the previous meeting. That brings us to public question time. Public question time is conducted in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995 and regulations. In addition to this, the Shire's Local Government Council Meetings Local Law 2016 states what you have on your screen there. As this doesn't change meeting by meeting, I've elected tonight to take that as read as it's within all of our usual meetings. So what I can say is I will guide you through question time as a process. Anyone who wants to see that in detail, it is included in every agenda that we have. So in the interest of saving a little bit of time, I'm going to move forward to public question time. Okay? I'll help guide you through the process if there's anything that is a little bit confusing. Okay? So I will open public question time at 5:05 p.m. So there's an order to this. So the first one is written questions on the current agenda, and there have been none. So we move to public question time, and we do have questions written that we prioritise first. So I have a question here from Mr. Boaz Pardo. Boaz, I'm going to read the question out, if that suits you. Thank you. What is the process for an urgent agenda to be brought up by councillors? The grounds for urgency are impact on health and safety. We've got a detailed response here that you'll be able to see on the screen as well, but I will read it out. The Shire of York Local Government Council Meetings Local Law 2016 Part 5, Subclause 5.4, new business of an urgent nature allows the following. 1. In cases of extreme urgency or other special circumstances, matters may, on a motion by the presiding member that is carried by the meeting, be raised by the meeting and decided by the meeting. 2. In subclause 1, cases of extreme urgency or other special circumstances means matters that have arisen after the preparation of the agenda that are considered by the presiding member to be of such importance and urgency that they are unable to be dealt with administratively by the local government and must be considered and dealt with by the council before the next meeting. This is item 12 on each council agenda. Councillors can also raise a notice of motion to be considered a future ordinary meeting or council, which is addressed at item 10 on the agenda. Additionally to that, Part 5 of the Local Government Act, Section 5.4, allows for an ordinary or special meeting of a council to be held if called for by either the mayor or president or at least 1/3 of the councillors in a notice to the CEO setting out the date and purpose of the proposed meeting, or if so decided by the council. So a few different pathways there, and thank you for your question. Question 2 is, if suspicion of an act of misconduct occurs, who is it reported to external to the council? What government department? So, if you're concerned about any actions of either council or the administration, you are encouraged to contact either the Crime and Corruption Commission, it's on the screen there, which has a website, www.ccc.wa.gov.au, or 1800 803 186, or the newly appointed local government inspector, which is contact@lginspector.wa.gov.au, or 089 222 333 with supporting information and evidence.
Excuse me, Councillor Trent speaking.
Oh, Councillor Trent, you seem to have a warning going off. Thanks, Councillor Trent. Thanks, Deputy President Smythe. So that was the written questions. So now what we do is we have a priority of anyone who would like to ask a question that is related to any items that are on tonight's agenda. So does anyone have a question they would like to ask that is related to items that are on tonight's agenda? Yes, we have one. Would you like to ask your question? If you would come up to the podium and just state your name, please.
Darlene Barrett. Does the Shire use petty cash in purchase orders and have accounts with local providers?
Thank you, Darlene. That's an operational matter, so I will pass that question over to the temporary CEO. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, we do. We use all of those items, and you can see the record of that in most of our council reports, the financial monthlies. They're actually listed out there, and yeah, I think that's all we need to say. We have and policies on that also available on the website. And I'll just pass on to our acting EMCCS in case she wishes to add further.
Thank you, through your chair. You'll also notice in our monthly financial reports there is a statistics on local spend.
What was that statistic?
Yep, statistics on local spend, like a percentage of our total spend. It identifies how much of that is local.
Okay, thank you, Darlene. Does anyone else have a question related to the current agenda for this evening? There are none. So, Darlene, would you like to ask your next question, please?
Getting told what to do now. Is the Shire aware of the state of the brickwork in the main street, and are they going to be cleaning it at all? This used to actually happen twice a year, but hasn't happened lately.
Thank you very much for the question. As that one is also operational, I will pass that across to the temporary CEO.
Thank you through the chair, and I'll pass that on to our EMEDs.
Through the chair, we'll take that one on notice and get back to you as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Are there any other further questions related or not related to the agenda this evening? There are none. Before I proceed, it sounds like we might have people sitting in the overflow tonight. Can I just get a double check that they can hear us and see us, please? Thank you very much. Do we have questions from outside? Thanks very much. There being no further questions, I will close public question time at 5:11 p.m. and thank you for your participation. Moving right along, applications for leave of absence, there are none. We have no presentations this evening, but we do have deputations this evening. So our first deputation tonight is item 6.3.1, Mr. Boaz Pardo, who would like to present a deputation. For the benefit of the gallery, so that everyone understands, there is a 10-minute limit on deputations. During a deputation, the person providing the deputation is not permitted to ask questions, but council may ask questions of the person providing the deputation at the end of their presentation or deputation. Yep. We can just pass that along. Okay. And if everyone is settled, you're right. Mr. Pardo.
Good evening, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. When I first came to York, I felt like a final approach of a pilot lining up for a clean, safe landing. Everything appeared straightforward and welcoming. I had just finalized my divorce and been given a clear bill of health as a cancer survivor ready to build a new life in York. But just as the wheels touched down, obstacles were deliberately thrown on the runway, making what should have been a smooth landing near impossible and very dangerous. I will now explain this correlation to my current situation. I want it to be very clear. My application for amendments to my original approval are not about compliance with the new policy changes as presented by administration. In today's agenda, the request to remove approved plans are not driven by the updated Age 3 policy. It appears, instead, to be an attempt to retrospectively justify conditions that were imposed without proper basis by admin. The same applies to the imposed 15-amp power supply condition. It is unclear why the Shire of York is imposing conditions that are not within the jurisdiction, colliding with Australian standards and work practices. I am also rejecting admin's definition of my tiny home, a structure as it is on wheels and is not permanently located on the ground. I am asking councillors to consider a fundamental question. Why are requests to change approval conditions presented differently to councillors than how they are originally submitted in written administration? This goes directly to transparency and trust. There are also serious concerns regarding conduct and process. Why are Shire representatives attending construction inspections in high visibility gear paired with inappropriate high heel shoes? Why are Shire representatives conducting property visits while refusing to establish or allow any clear protocol? These actions raise questions about professionalism and consistency. Further inconsistencies include, I handed out to all of you those pieces of paper. What you have is the original application that I submitted, and then what admin are presenting to you, the councillors, which is the following page, which you have today on the agenda as well. The image presented in the November 25 agenda differs from the image in my actual application. You can clearly see the differences. Another example is my private information published in the public domain without my consent. Further, the reason given for my alleged non-compliance have changed repeatedly over more than 4 months. If there were genuine compliance issues, they should have been clearly identified in January, not continuously altered through to April and with no end in sight. The complete removal of the agenda item in March raises serious concerns about whether councillors are being provided with full and accurate information. In that agenda, administration has stated, advice has been sought from the Department of Local Government, Industry Regulation and Safety. No further information has been received. This is difficult to reconcile. I personally contacted the department and received multiple responses, including from senior representatives. There is a dedicated team providing guidance regarding the legislative changes to the Caravan Park and Camping Act amendments implemented since September 24. So the question is, why is administration unable to obtain clarifications that is readily available to residents? This is for admin to answer. There are also factual inaccuracies in the records. I did not request any type of amendment to my approval regarding my tiny home on wheels. I have consistently maintained that my tiny home on wheels is a caravan under the Caravan Parks and Camping Act and its amendments. The criteria cited by administration, such as road registration requirements or design specifications, have changed multiple times and are not supported by any legislation. Claims that I submitted an application with photos of a habitable unit are incorrect. I only provided images of my tiny home when requested. These ongoing inconsistencies have had a real impact on my well-being. Administration have been informed repeatedly of the stress and mental health impact caused by the lack of clear, consistent communication. There has been a failure to respond to emails reliably. There is a duty of care to residents, and that duty is not being met. The legislative changes introduced in September 2024 were intended to help address the housing crisis. Yet today, I am facing the real prospect of becoming homeless on the land I own, while the Shire is fully aware of my situation. Given the pattern of shifting explanations and inconsistent handling, it is difficult not to conclude that this situation is being influenced by personal agendas rather than genuine compliance concerns. This perception was reinforced in a meeting where the statement, "This is not personal," was raised unprompted by admin. Finally, I want councillors to understand that this issue extends beyond my individual case. There is growing frustration within the community. This is evidenced through social media discussions and direct conversations with other members and residents. There is a clear perception that transparency, consistency, and fairness are lacking. I ask councillors to seek full and accurate information from administration. Question inconsistencies in I'll start that again, please. Question inconsistencies in how my matter has been handled. Ensure decisions are made based on legislation, not personal shifting interpretations. Perhaps it is time for your council admin to realize that they are public servants and not public punishers. I will finish my deputation with an honest statement. I regret moving to York. Thank you for your time. Boaz Pardo, 6 Cardwell Road.
Thank you, Mr. Pardo. As per deputations, councillors, you have the opportunity to ask Mr. Pardo any questions that you may have regarding his deputation. Are there any? There are none. We'll move on to the next deputation, 6.3.2, which is Jenny Garoon, presenting a deputation regarding item SY024-04/26. And I will let the gallery know that as I have an interest to declare in this later on, I will be refraining from asking any questions of the person providing the deputation to make sure there is no appearance of guiding the discussion. Okay? When you're ready, it looks like Joe Bryant is going to read on Jenny's behalf, correct?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, councillors. To introduce myself, my name is Joe Bryant. I've been on the committee for Wheatbelt Arts and Events since 2017, and with me is Jenny Garoon, CEO of Wheatbelt Arts and Events. We also have other members of our committee in the gallery, Dennis and Michelle Kickett, here to support us. The York Festival has built more than a decade of brand equity, tourism awareness and external recognition. Losing Shire funding will mean losing that position in the market and will have a significant impact. Since 2014, we've focused our marketing effort from Fremantle across the Perth metropolitan area and throughout the Avon Valley, Mundaring, 2J, Northam and Beverley, resulting in the York Festival becoming a readily recognised brand. The Culture Counts report, commissioned in 2022, which has been shared previously with Council and Administration, showed 85% of attendees would not have visited York if there was no York Festival. The York Festival invests $40,000 to $50,000 marketing annually. We engage a publicist to promote our event to media outlets, resulting in significant media coverage, including numerous radio interviews on 6IX, 6PR, RTR, Curtin Radio and ABC, articles in print media, including Have a Go News, The West Australian, Express Magazine, RAC Horizons Magazine, and live broadcasts on Channel 9 and Channel 7. Estimated reach 150,000. Our advertising spend in print media includes RAC Magazine, Have a Go News, Ripe Magazine, Express Magazine, and York Community Matters. Radio advertising spend includes RTR FM, 6IX, 6PR, and Triple M. These reach the metro and regional travel and lifestyle audiences. Meta advertising, which is the online advertising through Facebook and Instagram, has a reach of 77,000, 310,000 impressions, 14,000 clicks. We produce 6,000 to 10,000 printed programmes, which are distributed annually between Fremantle, the Perth metro area, Northern, Beverley and 2J. We install roadside banners along Great Eastern and Great Southern highways and throughout the town, aimed at attracting maximum attention. Regular emails to our 2,900 subscriber list are sent, and we have an open rate of 48%, which is very good in the industry for opening of emails. Other marketing collateral is distributed throughout York and neighbouring towns. Our marketing impacts positively on the whole of York, not just during the festival period. York's population growth in recent years has been partially a consequence of the York Festival's marketing. We have numerous anecdotal reports that people visited during the festival and subsequently bought here. And the CBA Regional Migration Index listed York as one of the fastest growing regional towns in 2024. York was also named amongst Airbnb's top 10 regional towns in 2024. And in recognition of this, Airbnb donated $30,000 to the York Festival that year. Other community benefits. The York Festival creates employment opportunities for local artists, art workers and others. It builds skills capacity within the York community. Its direct spend of 30 to 50k annually includes accommodation, local bus hire, photography, catering, venue hire with the Town Hall, CWA, RCS, Trinity Church and others, local advertising and production of print materials. It increases employment opportunities for workers in the hospitality industry. It supports the local hospitality industry, cafes, retailers, hotels and accommodation providers. It supports collaborations with community groups, such as the York Racing Club and the River Conservation Society. It supports the Balladong Muditch community group's participation in all of our programming. The increasing profile of the York Festival has contributed to the recognition of cultural tourism as an economic driver, reflected in its inclusion within the Shire of York's Council Plan, Pillar 2 Future Ready Economy. The consequence of Council saying no to Shire funding, as per the Officer recommendation. Shire funding guidelines require us to leverage the Shire's funding from other funding agencies. These include WA Tourism, Lottery West, DCIT, Regional Arts, Festivals Australia and others. The Officer's recommendation in this report has created uncertainty over future funding from the Shire. As a consequence, we've been unable to submit an application to Lottery West for funding to support the free events planned, resulting in our entire programme plan being compromised. We are currently holding Diesel, Dave Hole and numerous other nationally recognised guitar legends who are waiting to have their participation in this year's festival confirmed. Lottery West has confirmed they will not support the York Festival unless we have funding support from the Shire of York, which means none of the free events we planned for 2026 will go ahead. If Council decide to go with the Officer recommendation, we will be forced to return $40,000 in funding to WA Tourism, and other funding applications will be withdrawn. Therefore, option 2 in this report is not a viable option due to the timing. Supporting the festival's evolution into a niche music event represents the stronger commercial outcome for the York community. We respectfully ask Council to support our quest to retain and strengthen York's flagship, externally recognised tourism brand. We'd like to propose the following alternate motion: that Council receives the request for funding, requests Wheatbelt Arts and Events resubmits the Balladong first event for funding under the community funding category, and supports the application for a new multi-year tourism funding agreement for for a revised amount of $30,000 per annum. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe and Jenny, for your deputation. Councillors, are there any questions on this deputation? Councillor Welsh, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Joe and Jenny, for that presentation. Just a quick question. Is it reasonable to expect that Wheatbelt Arts and Events should be managing the finances of the organisation and the festival so that funds are retained year on year to begin to be self-supporting? Is this an objective of Wheatbelt Arts and Events going forward?
It's certainly an objective, but I think that you need to understand that the funding climate makes that really difficult, especially in the context of what we're experiencing now.
So when funding comes in for an event, it has to be spent for that event. So it's not possible for event funding to be retained for overheads and other elements. Certainly with our increase in attempting to secure ticketing funding, that's the money that can then be pulled into our overheads, and certainly sustainability is a longer term plan. Okay. But there are not many events that are fully sustainable.
And the ticketing income is never guaranteed, so until the event happens, we don't know what our ticket revenue is ever going to be.
Thank you for that response.
So just for the people in the gallery outside, the ticketing revenue obviously is only a forecast revenue. It's not available to be calculated against until the event has run.
Can I just add something else there? Sorry, can you hear okay now? When we submit an application, we do so with anticipated funding sources from various agencies. Unless we have multi-year funding and unless we've got those applications in early, we don't know at the time of submitting the application what our budget is looking like. So a lot of the grant revenue or sponsorship is all speculative. You know, if we have the budget to cover all the costs connected to presenting the festival, then we will at least break even and maybe make a profit. If we don't get those funding, then obviously our program has to be cut, our budget has to be cut accordingly.
Okay. Thank you for your response. Councillor Welsh, do you have anything further? Councillors, Councillor Hutchinson, you have a question.
As I understand it, York Festival's been going for some time. What is the structure of time frame that you start planning as to what money needs to go where? Because I understand, just looking at this for the very first time, that it's so imperative that you get this particular funding, and it sounds like some of that money's already been spent without knowing that funding was going to come through. I'm trying to understand the anticipation of how you put this together that leads into this sort of situation.
Okay. So we submitted our application to the Shire in October last year. We weren't told at the time that we only submit applications to the Shire every 2-3 years because we've had multi-year funding, and the way that the Shire's managed its grant applications has changed in that time. I overlooked because I don't do it very often, that I needed to submit the application online, and so the application went in October, and it wasn't until I followed up in February this year that I was told that I needed to submit it online. So we lost 4 years. We had a program plan, we had a budget in October last year, and we submitted in plenty of time. The loss of that 4 or 5 months has really impacted on us. What was the second question? Sorry. Yeah. So usually the planning, the budgeting starts well before the last event. So in this case, we started in the middle of last year. The budget, it kind of gets, we have a budget. The budget that we had when we submitted our application in October has changed a little bit. Just as our program plans change, but we always aim to break even. Yeah.
Thank you for your response to Councillor Hutchinson's question. Councillors, are there any further questions on this deputation? Checking in with Councillor Pike as well. Nothing from Councillor Pike. Thank you very much for your deputation. There's another deputation tonight, everyone. It's item 6.3.3 and it's from Darlene Barrett. Darlene, if you wouldn't mind, just before you start, to just adjust that microphone so that we can make sure the overflow part of the gallery can hear you, please.
Sorry, I just got to...
Yep, that's no problem. Take your time. Timer has not started.
Right. Darlene Barrett, I just wanted to say I don't like coming to Shire meetings and having to talk about things that aren't working well. I actually rather enjoy coming to the Shire with things that are positive in town. But unfortunately, I'm hitting up against more non-positive. So I wish to raise a concern regarding the experience of an 85-year-old resident who recently approached the Shire seeking guidance on constructing a simple shed to house his vehicle. The gentleman resides on River Street on a property that already contains a reasonably new shed-style home. His intention was to install a modest colour-bond shed in a heritage green colour similar to those readily available through the local suppliers such as Bunnings. However, he received an email from the Shire advising him that his property was located within Blandstown and therefore subject to heritage restrictions requiring any new structure to be constructed as a brick garage. This advice was confusing and concerning as the resident actually lives approximately 3 kilometres that way, outside of Blandstown. It's also worth noting that within Blandstown area itself, there are existing examples of non-brick structures, including sheds constructed from colour-bond materials in darker tones, as well as homes featuring brick fronts with colour-bond style extensions at the rear. This raises questions about consistency of the regulations being applied, or restrictions being applied, After writing back to clarify the error, the resident received the following email acknowledging that the mistake in location. Unfortunately, the response did not provide a clear or practical pathway forward. Instead, he was referred broadly to town planning legislation and other regulatory frameworks, leaving him to interpret complex requirements on his own. This situation highlights a broader issue for elderly residents navigating detailed planning legislation without guidance is both difficult and unreasonable. It would be far more appropriate for the Shire to provide clear, accessible assistance, such as confirming applicable zoning, outlining straightforward requirements, and supplying the correct application forms rather than placing the burden of interpretation on the individual. A second inconsistency should also be noted. While residents are expected to comply strictly with prescribed heritage colour schemes, the Shire itself appears to not uphold the same standard. For example, the steps within the town, meaning the town hall, widely regarded as part of its iconic heritage character, have been painted in a colour that is clearly not consistent with the stated heritage palette. This undermines confidence in fairness and consistency of rules being enforced. A further matter for concern involves a structure on William Street that was clearly become dangerous. The owner sought to demolish the building due to its deteriorated condition, something that was visibly evident and posed an imminent risk of collapse. despite the owner was required to proceed through a formal planning pathway, including being asked to obtain an engineer's report to confirm that the building could be saved. The process continued even as the risk was apparent, ultimately resulting in advice that the matter would be taken to council in April today. The owners agreed to that course of action. However, before this could occur, the building collapsed in March. Despite the collapse and the clear safety implications, the owner is still awaiting a demolition licence. The required fee has already been paid, yet the matter has not appeared on the council's agenda as previously indicated. This delay raises concerns about process efficiency, responsiveness to safety risk, and potential realities faced by property owners dealing with hazardous structures. I also wish to raise a broader concern regarding workplace safety. Observed within the community recently, at a local petrol station, a staff member was seen refuelling a council vehicle, while wearing high visibility jacket paired with high heel shoes of approximately 5 inches. This raises a legitimate question about workplace safety practices and appropriate attire in an environment that clearly requires safety-conscious clothing. The combination of high visibility gear with unsuitable footwear appears to be inconsistent and potentially hazardous. I wish to also address a statement made recently in a media release concerning community concerns about a local business. The temporary CEO stated that the more open and honest you can be with us, the better the outcome. This statement is difficult to reconcile with the lived experiences of some residents. In my own case, when I approached the Shire in good faith and followed the appropriate processes, I was provided with all incorrect information and felt subject to undue pressure and intimidation. After waiting 4 months and 2 weeks for a response to a complaint, the outcome was simply that the matter had been investigated and no action would be taken. What was missing was a basic acknowledgement of the experience, a simple statement which, as "We're sorry for your experience and we are putting measures in place to ensure that your next interaction with the Shire is a more positive one," would have demonstrated accountability and commitment to improvement. An additional concern relating to handling of overdue accounts in recent months. Questions were raised by a councillor regarding relatively small amounts, approximately $90 for a single month. The explanation suggested that delays can occur when responsibilities change and accounts do not reach the appropriate department, along with a comment that stated retaining funds in the bank was better for the Shire. However, this reasoning is difficult to accept when the consequences is an unnecessary cost to ratepayers. It is in at least 2 instances. The overdue debts were associated with local cooperative, resulting in approximately $80 in avoidable charges. Given that the Shire has a long-standing relationship with the co-op over many years, there should be established systems in place, such as dedicated account and direct billing to appropriate account officers to ensure invoices are received and paid promptly. Allowing such debts to accumulate does not meaningfully benefit the Shire financially, but instead results in avoidable penalties and inefficiencies. This raises concerns about internal process and accountability in basic financial management. I respectfully ask whether the Shire can improve these processes to ensure that residents are treated with fairness, respect and transparency, that systems are in place to prevent avoidable errors and delays, and that when issues are raised, that they are responded to in a way that builds trust and confidence within the community. I'd also like to add that I had 3 more items to go on to this, but I didn't think I'd be able to say it in the 10 minutes.
Yeah, 30 seconds to go, Darlene.
Yeah, well, that's
okay.
Done.
Thank you very much for your deputation. Council, do you have any questions of Mrs. Barrett for her deputation? Councillor Hutchinson, yes.
Darlene, you brought a lot of areas for council to look at. Is there a way that you could sum that up of what you want council to consider?
I just think it needs to be a little bit easier to come to the council. The council need people to come to the council if they're going to put up a shed or put up whatever, and the council makes money out of that interaction. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that just don't bother. They don't bother because they get triggered by even the word council. I get triggered by the word council because of everything we went through with Ray Hooper. It gets to the point where there's people out there that want to do the right thing. Nobody that's going to do the wrong thing is going to come to the council and ask permission. If they're going to do the wrong thing, they're not going to come to the council to ask for permission. So the people that are coming to the council, that are asking for permission, need to be sort of guided and helped and respected.
Thank you very much for your response. Councillors, are there any further questions of Mrs. Barrett? Thank you very much. That's the end of the deputations for this evening, so we will move now to the delegates' reports. Councillor D. Smythe has got something on the screen there. Those are the things that the Deputy Shire President has attended during March. We'll move to the confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. There's a recommendation there, Council, that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 24th of March be confirmed as a correct record. May I have a mover?
Move, Councillor Trent.
Councillor Trent moves. May I have a seconder? Councillor Welsh, thank you for seconding. Would anyone like to speak against the recommendation? There is no one. Let's put it to the vote, please. And I have Councillor Pike as well. So that's carried 6-0 for the minutes. Thank you very much. We'll move to the next section. Okay, so that's just events attended by myself, the presiding member, throughout March. Let's move to the next section. We're up to the officers' reports. Item SY 023-04/26 is a request to amend temporary accommodation approval, Lot 24 or 6, Cardwell Road, York. Let's have a look at the recommendation. And I should point out to the gallery as well that there are 2 other ways apart from this evening that Council can ask questions of the administration on the reports. One is via email once the agenda briefing has come out, and once is at the agenda brief, and the second is at the agenda briefing last week. So sometimes the councillors have already asked questions regarding an item and have received satisfactory answers. All councillors are given the opportunity to re-ask their questions at the OCM for the record if they wish. Okay. Councillors, on that, does anyone have any questions or points of clarification? Yes, we have one from Councillor Hutchinson. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, President Gibbs. Just on the fact that we've had a deputation on that, I just wanted to ask this question. Is admin confident that the accurate information has been given to Council?
Thank you for your question. I will hand that over to the temporary CEO for a response on behalf of admin.
Yes, administration, through the chair.
Councillors, are there any further questions on this item? May I have a mover for the item? Councillor Hutchinson moves. May I have a seconder for the item? Councillor Welsh seconds. Is anyone speaking against the item? There is no one. Let's put it to the vote. And that's carried 6-0. Thank you very much, Council. And we'll move to the next item. Okay, so I will read the item number out first, and then we have some interest to declare. So item SY024-04/26 is the request for new multi-year tourism funding application from Wheatbelt Arts and Events Incorporated. We have two interests. I will read mine first. With regard to that item, which is 026-04/26, I disclose that I have a financial interest in this matter. The association I am engaged as a subcontractor to curate elements of the Twang Festival, the West Australian National Guitar Festival, as part of York Festival. I do not have any other involvement in the festival or the day-to-day operations of Wheatbelt Arts and Events Incorporated. But as a result, I will be leaving the room. I will stay for you to read yours, and then I will hand the chair.
And thank you through the chair. It's Alina Bean, Temporary CEO. With regard to item request for new multi-year tourism funding application, Wheatbelt Arts and Events Inc., the matter item SY024-0426, I disclose that I have a financial interest in this matter. The association is that a member of my household is currently employed by Wheatbelt Arts and Events Inc., and as a consequence, I will leave the meeting.
Thanks. And I believe there's another interest. Councillor Hutchinson, can you please read yours?
Thank you, President Gibbs. With regard to the request for the multi-year tourism funding application, Wheatbelt Arts and Events Incorporated, in the matter of SY024-0426, I disclose that I have an association with the applicant or person seeking the decision. The association is that the charity in which I am affiliated has been in a recent receipt of donations from one of the applicants, and as a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hutchinson. I will now be leaving the room, and I will be handing the chair temporarily over to Deputy President Smythe.
Okay, is everyone okay? Thank you very much. There is a recommendation there that with regard to the request for new multi-year tourism funding application, Wheatbelt Arts and Events, Council 1 receives the request for funding from Wheatbelt Arts and Events as presented at Appendix 1, and 2 rejects the request for a new multi-year tourism funding agreement as submitted and presented in the report. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask? Yes.
Does Council have the opportunity to propose an alternative motion, seeing as this has been a panel decision? I'm not sure, so I'm just not sure of the clarity on that, whether an alternative, according to what's been offered, is able to be offered to Council.
Sorry. Can I ask Annika to respond to that, please?
Thank you, through the chair. Council always has the option to propose an amendment to the motion, to the recommendation.
even in creating an amount to propose?
Correct.
Okay. Is there anyone else that's got any points of clarification? Okay. Well, what I will ask, is there a mover for the recommendation as it stands? As it stands, you all move it?
Yes.
Do I have a seconder as it stands?
Seconded, Councillor Trent.
Okay. Is there anyone opposed to the recommendation as it stands? Councillor Welsh? Thank you very much. So, as we have someone that is opposed to the recommendation, we will go into debate. So, as the mover, Councillor Hutchinson, you have the first right of response.
This is a very, very difficult one. As it's something that's been going for a very long time, and we are also faced at the moment with some very difficult turbulence financially. Looking at the application and what it is and the recommendations, I'm not sure whether the Shire has the opportunity to actually offer as much as what's been offered. We have got new things that we need to consider. Also being a charity as well, I feel so deeply for this space. I do hope that there's other ways that you can do this. It would have been great to see this come to another amount, maybe that was inapplicable to the Shire's financial situation. Because losing something that's been going for so long isn't something I'd like to see. So it's I'm still very torn at this point.
Councillor Trent, would you like to add anything?
Yes, Deputy President. This council makes quite a large sum of money to various groups across the community for organising different events, and some of them are successful, others are not so successful. I think that if the applicants had gone away and reshaped their application, we could have had a better result.
Councillor Welsh, you wish to speak against the motion?
Thanks, Denise. Yeah, look, the York Festival is a really important part of our fabric here in York and has been for many years now. I am opposed to the current resolution for the reason that I do not want to see York, and we are under very tough budget times at the moment, and we have a lot to consider across a lot of services that we provide, and a lot of multi-year funding applications and various other funding requests that we get across the year. However, I'm concerned that if we do not approve some form of funding for the Wheatbelt Arts and Events to run the festival this year and over the requested 3 years that they've asked for, that this sort of approach will flow through to other events in town, and we run the risk of falling back into what York was like probably 10 to 15 years ago, where it was very quiet in town, there wasn't a lot of events. I do not want to see that happen again. I do hope that we can reconsider as a council and that we can work together with Wheatbelt Arts and Events to find a middle ground that provides them some funding to give them the ability to go back to their bigger funders to say we do have support from our Shire to run the event this year.
Okay, I'm actually going to speak for the recommendation, and I've done a little bit of homework. I do want to acknowledge that the work that the Wheatbelt Arts and Events has done over many years, and the York Festival and Balladong First are clearly valued by parts of our community, and that's not the question. It's about whether the event has value. It clearly does. But our role here tonight is to assess the application against our policy, our funding criteria, and our responsibility to the ratepayers. We have been asked to increase funding while the program has been reduced in scope, and this raises legitimate questions about the value to the ratepayers. In the current economic climate, council need to be very mindful of budget constraints and what services the ratepayers expect council to provide with their money. There is insufficient evidence of measurable tourism benefit, particularly around visitor numbers and economic impact. We need stronger data to justify a long-term financial commitment. For instance, the Blues at Bridgetown Festival generally attracts between 10 and 15,000 over the course of a three-day long weekend, and has been running since 1993. And they report $2 million boost to their economy, whereas the last report said that we got $3.8 million boost to our economy. The Shire of Bridgetown have been providing funding for this Blues Festival, and in 2025-26 they provided $14,350. In 24-25 they provided $14,350. In 2023 they provided $15,900, so they have gone down in their funding. And this event, over 3 years, typically has over 60 artists performing 115 acts across 9 stages. The Shire of Nannup granted $10,000 funding for the 2026 Nannup Music Festival, which was held in February. This festival has been 37 years in the running and has 11 stages, 100 plus acts, workshops and kids activities as well. With regard to the economic impact, I'm concerned that elements of the event may actually limit spend in our CBD. And if we are funding tourism, we need to see a direct benefit to local businesses. Are we being consistent and fair, as we have previously declined or reduced funding where events have strong income streams? For instance, the Medieval Fair. Approving this would be inconsistent with past decisions and unfair to other applicants. I do see value in the Balladong First as a community event, and I believed it is more aligned with community funding, not tourism. Although I do not believe this needs to be, and this is my personal opinion, a 3-day event, as its work previously being run as an afternoon of the Australia Day. I would support working with the applicant to explore alternative funding pathways, particularly for the Balladong First on the afternoon of Australia Day. But I'm not satisfied that this application meets the threshold for a multi-year funding agreement. At this stage, the applicant doesn't demonstrate sufficient value, alignment or justification to commit ratepayers' funds of $123,000 over 3 years, bearing in mind that 73.9% of this application is ticketed and only 26.1% is free, with a projected income from the ticketed sales of $92,270. So I definitely recommend that we accept this recommendation. Is there anyone else that wants to speak against it? Councillor Pike, have you got anything to say? Okay.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Would you like to sum up?
As I'm quite new on council and I'm not 100% on the protocols on how we run this, I just would like to know, if we accept this recommendation as it is, what scope does Wheatbelt
Arts and Events.
Thank you. Wheatbelt Arts and Events have in order to be able to meet that criteria? Because what I can hear, whether we're for or against in argument, we all agree that some support should come to them. I would just like to clarify that if we receive this as a recommendation through the vote, is there a process that they're able to
come back?
Yes.
Can I ask the acting?
Thank you, through the chair. It will depend on what you want to move, whether you want to move to defer the item and seek further information, or whether you want to amend the recommendation as is, or move an alternate motion.
I'd like to ask a question. If this was carried, could Wheatbelt Arts and Events come back and reapply for funding, but not multi-year?
Thank you, through the chair. So, in the report, officers did identify that we did wish to work with the applicant in relation to the Bowdong First event and the community funding pathways. Certainly, if they would like to submit another proposal, we can certainly consider it and present it to council if council so wish.
Thank you. Yes, councillor.
Under that, I would like to propose that we defer, where more information Shire can work with Wheatbelt Art and Events in order to find a solution that may meet both sides.
I don't know if I'm doing this right. Can I have a seconder for that?
Madam President, or Deputy President, I think we've got to deal with the motion on the table.
The motion's on the table first, that's correct. Yep, sorry. So the motion that is on the table at the moment is that they receive the request and that they reject the multi-year funding as it is. So I will put that to the vote.
Sorry, just to interrupt there. If you vote on that recommendation, you wouldn't be able to have another motion. You'd need to move a alternative
motion.
Otherwise, that will finalise that.
Yep. Okay, so you want to move an alternative motion. Okay. And you've got a seconder for that alternative motion. Okay, so now we will vote on the alternative motion. And the alternative motion is?
The alternative motion is that we defer this resolution so that so that the Shire admin and Wheatbelt Art and Events are able to maybe discuss a different solution.
And we have a seconder. Do you want to speak to that?
No, I agree with that.
Okay. Is there anyone who wants to speak against it? Councillor Pike? Councillor Pike, you want to speak against it?
Yeah, well, I think the admin's already stated that they are willing to work with another arrangement in the future to get something sorted to help the guys out. So I don't see deferring it is going to do any different.
Okay. Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? Then I'll put the new motion, which is that we defer the resolution. Hang on, where is it? That with regard to the request for the multi-year funding application, Wheatbelt Arts and Events Council defers this item to the next meeting, to the May meeting.
So just as a suggestion, so you can have the first line as council defers item, and then the next line would be directs the temporary CEO to bring the item back
to May.
Yeah.
Yep.
It needs to step out what you're instructing us to do.
Thank you. To bring back to the May council meeting. Okay, so we've had a speaker for and we've had two speakers for. We've had a speaker against. Do we have any more speakers for? Then I will put this motion to the vote. Those that are in favour of deferring, that's 3. Those that are against, 2. So the motion is carried. So we don't go back to the original motion now because there's been one. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Can we call back in Councillor Gibbs? No, we did it right.
Next item, please, Emma. Okay, item SY 025-04/26 is a request to reside in a caravan at Lot 33, 33 Clifford Street, York. Let's have a look at the recommendation. There's the recommendation, Council. Can I please ask if there are any points of clarification or questions on this item? And just confirming Deputy President Smythe is back in the room at 6:12 p.m. There are no questions. Do I have a mover? Councillor Trent moves. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Welsh?
Councillor Welsh, second.
Is anyone speaking against the item? Let's take a vote. And that's moved 6-0, carried 6-0. Okay, and we'll go to the next item. SY 026-04/26 is also a request to reside in caravan at Lot 29 or 21 McCartney Street, York. Let's have a look at the recommendation. Council, there's the recommendation. Are there any points of clarification or questions on this item? There are none. Can I have a mover, please?
Councillor Trent.
Councillor Trent moves. May I have a seconder? Councillor Smythe. Thanks, Councillor Trent.
Councillor Smythe seconds.
Thank you, Councillor Smythe. Is anyone speaking against this item? No one. Let's take a vote, please. And that is carried 6-0. Thank you, Council. Okay, moving on to our next item. Okay, this one is SY 027-04/26, Tourism Funding Acquittal for York Motoring Events. Councillor Trent, I believe you have a declaration on this one.
Yes, impartial interest declaration.
Mm-hmm.
With regards to items, the Tourism Funding Acquittal, York Motoring Events Incorporated, SY 027 0426. I disclose that I'm in association with the applicant, the association being that I'm a member of the York Motoring Events, Inc. As a consequence, there may be a perception of, and my matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thanks very much, Councillor Trent. If you could just pass across that paperwork. Let's have a look at the recommendation. Council, are there any points of clarification or questions on this item? There are none. Do I have a mover? Councillor Smythe.
Councillor Smythe moves the recommendation.
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchinson seconds.
Okay, is anyone speaking against the item? There is no one. Let's take a vote. And that is carried 6-0. Thank you. And we will move to the next item. SY028-04/26 is the community grant funding acquittal for Wheatbelt Endurance Riders Incorporated for 2025-26. Let's have a look at the recommendation. Council, are there any points of clarification or questions on this item? There are none. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Trent. Councillor Trent's moving. May I have a seconder? Councillor Welsh.
Councillor Welsh, second.
Thank you very much. Is anyone speaking against the item? Nobody. Let's take a vote, please. And that's carried 6-0. Thank you, Council. We will have a look at the next item. Okay, so item SY029-04/26 is a request for approval to develop the proposed York Housing Activation Plan. Let's have a look at the recommendation. Council, are there any points of clarification or questions on this item? There are not. May I have a mover for the item, please?
Councillor Trent moves.
Thank you, Councillor Trent. May I have a seconder?
Councillor Smythe seconds.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smythe. Is anyone speaking against the recommendation? No. Let's take a vote. And that is carried 6-0. Thank you, Council. We'll have a look at the next item. Okay, so this one is SY030-04/26, and it's sector feedback on the Walga climate change advocacy position. Let's have a look at the recommendation. There it is. Council, are there points of clarification or questions on this item? There aren't. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Welsh is moving.
Councillor Welsh moves.
May I have a seconder?
Councillor Trent seconds.
Sorry, by show of hands, please. Councillor Hutchinson, you had your hand up.
Councillor Hutchinson seconds.
Thank you very much. Is anyone speaking against this? No. Let's take a vote, please. And that is carried 6-0. Thanks very much, everyone. Moving to the next item. Okay, this one's item SY031-04/26. It's the financial report for March 2026. Let's have a look at the recommendation. And Council, are there points of clarification or questions? Councillor Smythe, you have a question.
I do have a question. EFT payment of 35782 is to York. It's paying for York racing rates. Do the Shire pay all the York racing rates or a percentage?
Thanks for the question. Let's pass that across to the temporary CEO for a response.
And thank you through the Chair. I'll pass it on to our acting EMCCS.
Thank you through the Chair. So the MOU that we have with York Racing Inc. is that we pay the rates, but they will pay any other charges, fees and charges, such as waste service and the emergency services levy.
Councillors, are there any further questions on this item? There are none. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Trent.
Councillor Trent moves.
Thank you very much, Councillor Trent. Seconder, please. Councillor Smythe. Thank you for seconding. Is anyone speaking against the item? Okay, let's take a vote, please. And that is carried 6-0. Thank you, Council. We'll have a look at the next item. SY 032-04/26 is investments for March 2026. Let's have a look at the recommendation there. There it is. Council, are there any points of clarification or questions on this item? There are none. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchinson moves.
May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Welsh.
Councillor Welsh seconds.
Thank you very much. Is anyone speaking against the item or recommendation? No. Let's take a vote, please, Council. That's carried 6-0. Thank you. Okay, there are no motions of which previous notice has been given. Are there any questions from council members without notice? Councillor Trent.
Just regarding the new swimming pool, have we put our toe in the water to see what funds are available to build this pool?
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Trent, and I will hand that across to the temporary CEO for an update on that part of the project.
Thank you through the Chair. Yes, we've done some dipping. So we have our own reserve, so we're preparing for that. We are speaking to WA Treasury around loans. We have also speaking to Department of Sport and Rec regarding the CSRFF funding, and we advocate regularly with our federal and state members.
Thank you. Any further questions from members without notice? No. Business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There are none. So there are some confidential items, so I would now like to move to close the meeting to the public. Do I have a seconder?
Second, Councillor Trent.
Seconded. Is anyone against closing the meeting to the public? There isn't. Let's take a vote, please. And that's carried 6-0. So for the confidential items, we do need to clear the gallery. Thank you very much for your attendance. I would only be reading out the result of this afterwards. Thanks very much for your attendance, everyone, and your cooperation this evening. The gallery is being cleared and the overflow is being switched off. And we'll just wait for and I can confirm that the meeting has been closed to the public at 6:23 p.m. Emma, could you please just run that back up so I can... Is this the recommendation? Okay. All right, so there's a recommendation there. There's two different ones here. That's the first one there, everyone. Does anyone have any questions on that first part of the recommendation there? Sorry, just for minuting purpose, I should also mention this is SY033-04/26 confidential rates and charges request for write-off A13440, A2299, A2810, A2811, A60297, A60822, A61021, A60260, A562, A60019, A1053 and A60020. There are no questions. Can someone please move the recommendation? Councillor Welsh is moving. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hutchinson is seconding.
Councillor Hutchinson seconds.
Thank you. Is anyone speaking against this item? No one is. Let's take a vote on that, please, Council. That is carried 6-0. There's also another confidential item. We'll just wait till we record this vote. Okay. And so the next item is SY034-04/26. Just up. Is that the right one? Yes, sorry. Confidential request for outstanding representation sponsorship for Wanderers Australia International Netball Tour Program 2026-27. There's the recommendation. Council, does anyone have any questions or clarification points? There are none. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Trent.
Councillor Trent moves.
Councillor Trent moves. Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hutchinson. Okay. Oh, microphone off, please, Councillor.
Councillor Hutchinson seconds.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hutchinson. Is anyone speaking against this item? Let's take a vote then. And that is carried 6-0. Now, if that's the end of the confidential items, which I believe it is, I would like to move to open the meeting to the public at 6:26 p.m. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Smythe.
Seconds. Is anyone against the meeting being opened? Let's take a vote, please. And it's unanimous 6-0. It's carried to open the meeting to the public. Thank you. And I can confirm. Yeah, I can confirm that the meeting is open to the public at 6:27 p.m. So I need to read those resolutions. Yep. Can I please have the resolutions on screen? Okay. So Resolution 150426, with regard to rates and charges, the request for write-off of the associated numbers there. Council 1 rejects the request to write off the penalty interest of $1,121.17. It was carried by absolute majority, 6-0. And for Resolution 160426, that with regard to request for outstanding representation sponsorship for Wanderers Australia International Netball Tour Program 2026/27, Council 1 receives the request for sponsorship from Jessica Bishop for a contribution to costs to participate in an international netball tour in January 2027 organised by Wanderers Australia, and 2 approves the request for $500 in sponsorship in accordance with Council Policy C8, funding, grants and sponsorship. That was also carried 6-0. And with that, I will close this OCM and thank Council and Administration and the members of the gallery who were here early. I close the meeting at 6:28 p.m. Thank you very much, and we will see you next month.